We're going to be closing out today's sessions on the innovation stage with Evan Shapiro and Precisify, who will unveil exclusive new Gen Z and Millennial YouTube data. The media landscaping is shifting, and understanding where attention is actually moving is critical. To unveil the new and exclusive data on how YouTube is reaching Gen Z and Millennial audiences, please join me in welcoming Chief Commercial Officer of Precisify, Dennis Krishel.
Take a seat. And Evan as well. His birthday today, actually. Happy birthday, Evan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I did hear possible kept the best to last usually for some of their talks. So we're the end session today before the happy hour. And we are delighted to be here today. You can see here new research. So we've been working on this research the last 6 months. There's a QR code here. We have some handouts as well if you want. And a media first presenting with a birthday man today as well with Evan. So yes. Okay. So before we get started, I wanted to talk about it is a fragmented world within digital. And something that we were very excited about working on this research with Evan in this collaboration was looking at how do you measure these ecosystems where it is so fragmented, looking at these new audiences. Because if you look at kind of more traditional measurement, let's just say the Nielsen Gauge report as an example. It tells you YouTube is very large on CTV, but it doesn't tell you anything about tablets, mobile, computers. So we're going to dive into a lot of that today. So starting off, this is a top-line view of consumption habits for 13 to 17, 25 to 44-year-olds. So you can see YouTube is absolutely massive. Interesting to see TikTok, very large there as well. So all of these platforms are very large, but if you're to win in these platforms, you really need to know how to activate in them and not just knowing that they're very large, like the old model. So if we double click for a second into YouTube as an example, this is a great piece of research that Evan did where he actually looked at 4.5 million YouTube channels. So 4.5 million YouTube channels, and 20%, almost a million of those channels have 80% of views. So you can see it here in the left-hand side.
98%.
98% of views. It's not usually the 2080, it's 2098 in this example. And with these channels, almost a million, they're forever changing. So Mr. Beast is in there today, Darman is in there today, but then there's all of these other creators who want to get into that top 20%, which is always changing. And that's why we exist at Precisify, is to help you to understand and reach these audiences in fragmented places. So what we do at Precisify is we help agencies and brands to find the most relevant audiences in these places by leveraging proprietary panels. What we're showing you today is a new millennial panel for the US that we've just launched. We're launching more panels this year. We've proprietary panels of about 20,000 individuals in the US market. And then looking at AI models, intent signals, and contextual data. So just a few more insights that I'll show you now. So what are those actual audiences watching from a teen perspective? You can see here, Mr. Beast is up there, lots of other IP as well. Interesting to see Nickelodeon is popular with boys on YouTube, but then The Simpsons is more popular with girls in this example. So we look at this data. And then this insight, I was actually watching an influencer panel yesterday, and they asked a few influencers on stage, would you prefer 1 million subscribers on YouTube, 1 million followers on Instagram, or TikTok? And the 3 influencers said YouTube, hands down. And this is the reason. There is a massive amount of content consumed about influencer content on YouTube, but it's one of the platforms that's least invested from an influencer marketing perspective today. And that is an area where we help agencies and brands as well. And then lastly, before I pass you on to Evan, who is going to give you an amazing tour of this piece of research, is if you think about TV, and yes, traditional TV has moved to a lot of CTV today, but when audiences are consuming that, The 43% of teens are second screening on YouTube. So YouTube's even winning when people are second screening on CTV and TV, and even higher for millennials as well. So with that, I'll pass you to Evan now.
Thanks so much, Dennis. Great stuff. Thank you, Precisify, for commissioning this research. It is my birthday, so I decided not to wear pants. Thank you very much. So this this research is really, I think, illuminating with regards to these individual cohorts, teens and millennials. But I think something that people fail to realize is that at 59 years old today, I am now older than 88% of the planet. I am older than 75% of Americans. 70% of the world's population are millennials and younger. 58% of the US population are millennials and younger. 55% of the American workforce are millennials and younger. And these percentages are not going to go down, they're going to go up. And so there's this perception, I think, amongst a lot of Gen Xers and boomers in our business that, well, when the kids grow up, they're going to suddenly develop a taste for coffee. Do you know what I mean? They're going to suddenly adapt the media habits that we had when we were kids. And in fact, just the opposite is true. The media habits of millennials and younger population are now the norm. And in fact, they're influencing the rest of the planet. Millennials and younger, millennials, Gen Zers, and Gen A, and Gen B is being born this year, they are now the media habits of the world. The fastest growing audience on YouTube is actually 55 plus, so the influence is going the other way. And I think the most important thing that I want you to take away from this research is for millennials and teens, but really for all consumers from this point forward, you have to think of the entire consumer, the whole audience, not just horizontal or vertical, not just creator or mainstream, not television or mobile, not couch or toilet, but the whole consumer. Think about the video they consume during the course of the day. Look at how you consume video during the course of the day, and I'll keep reinforcing this. So this is, for teens, the rankings, and you can see actually Netflix and YouTube pop way above the rest of the crowd here. For millennials, 25-44, you can see it's a little bit closer of a race, but YouTube still is on top. And when you look at the combined data, Dennis showed this slide a couple seconds ago, but when you look at this combined data, there's a couple of interesting things. YouTube is on top, not just because it's a great platform, but because it's the only platform in all of media that addresses the entire consumer. It is horizontal, it is vertical, it is phone, and it is TV. No other platform here really caters to both simultaneously. This is picking me up, by the way. So the other thing to notice here is Netflix is number 2, and a good solid number 2, especially with younger consumers. But what's also crucial to understand is that Netflix is the only pure play television platform in the top 5 for teens and millennials. The only one. The rest, it's surrounded on all sides by what we call social media, YouTube on top, which is both television and social, and then really vertical, mobile, social content on all sides around it. When you look at I think we can all agree now, or most of us can probably agree, that the center of culture on the planet Earth is really creator culture. Creators are the biggest stars in the world, bigger than rock stars, for the most part, Taylor Swift aside, bigger than most movie stars, in fact, I think bigger than all movie stars. And creator content is the most consumed content amongst people, millennials and younger. And YouTube wins across the board with millennials, or 25 to 44. When you combine YouTube Shorts, and again, this gets to the vertical and the horizontal combined, when you combine the two different platforms, YouTube is a monster here. Now, when you look at teens, TikTok is a fast comer for creator content. It is probably the fastest rising platform for creator content on Earth, and it's really popular with teenagers. But when you look at how different platforms cater to the whole consumer or not, it's really instructive to look at the devices that are used here. Now, teens use a little bit less YouTube on television than their older counterparts, actually. Older folks tend to use more YouTube on TV than teenagers do, and you think about the use case here. But you can see phone, TV screen, tablet, PC. It's the only platform that has over 40% for all of these different devices, the only platform that caters to the whole consumer. When you look at Shorts, it's fast growing here, and you can see that TV screen is actually growing for YouTube Shorts as well. When you look at TikTok, however, this is a mobile-only platform. There is no television experience for TikTok. This is the hardest presentation. And by the way, does anybody like that billboard? So it's exclusively a mobile experience, which we all know. But you'll also note this is why TikTok is going to come to the television screen. They're watching what YouTube is doing. They're watching at the money that they're minting on television screens, and TikTok wants a piece of that. Same thing with Instagram. It's exclusively a mobile experience, but they've already launched a television platform in the US, and it's going to go global by the end of this year. Now, on the other side, broadcast. Broadcast is exclusively a television experience. It is exclusively a horizontal experience. It is almost exclusively a couch experience. And for teens and millennials, almost all broadcast and linear television usage is live. Sports, traders, so you think you can dance, but it's almost entirely a live horizontal experience. When you look at Netflix, actually, I think Dennis and I were both really surprised at how much phone usage Netflix has, but then Dennis talked about his flight here and how many people were watching Netflix on their phones. So there is an out-of-home experience for Netflix. It's, you know, if you're in a hotel room, why do you need to log onto the television screen when you have that great horizontal screen sitting right in your lap? So Netflix is definitely growing as a phone experience, but it's almost primarily a television experience. Except this year, they're going to launch verticals, because they want to go the other way. So you're going to see Disney launched Verts, worst name ever, recently. Netflix is going to launch verticals by the end of this year. All of the major streaming platforms are going to launch verticals so that they can cater to the entire consumer. Disney, almost entirely a television experience. When you look at Spotify, there's this myth that Spotify has a television viewing experience or a television experience. That's not true. They're almost expressly a mobile or digital device experience. And the television screen is almost non-existent in the Spotify experience. However, this also helps explain why Spotify is getting into the television business. They made a huge deal with Netflix. They're putting their podcasts on Netflix, and I think you're going to see Spotify lean harder and harder into the television screen. Gaming, on the other hand, is one of those types of things that is almost dual in nature. Most gamers game on, not all on console, but console or PC and phone. They flip back and forth. To a certain extent, the console gamer is a younger, more male-oriented gamer, and the phone gamer is a little bit older and actually majority female. When you think, who here plays a game on their phone, like Wordle or puzzle games or something like that? It's not that hot. Raise your hands. And actually, all the women in the audience raise their hands. So this is a dual screen experience, console gaming and phones, and a lot of console games are on phones as well. Now, this is where the rubber hits the road with regards to the whole consumer. Dennis mentioned this in his presentation, but what you can see is that for teens, a lot of them, 40% or more in many cases, very few use email, but a lot of them are dual screening on their phone while they're watching television. And many of them are using many of these apps, going from text to YouTube to games to Instagram while they're watching television. But here's the big one: millennials. Now, most heads of households with kids in the United States, more than 50% of them are doing multiple things on their phones while they're watching television. 50% of millennials are watching YouTube on their phone while the television is on in front of them. Now, here's something really important to understand. 70% of the world's population are now millennials and younger. Most parents of children under 18 are millennials. Millennials aren't kids anymore. They're having kids. It's really important to remember that. And so a lot of times there's co-viewing happening. I did a report with Common Sense last week about the kids' content landscape, and there's a lot more co-viewing than I anticipated, and I think more than Common Sense anticipated, and I think this helps explain it. There's something on the television for the kids, but the parents are watching something else on their phones. But look at this, 50% or more, YouTube, Facebook, email, text, probably think of your own experience, right? You're going to email, you're going to text, you're checking Instagram, and then you're looking up at the television. This is why Netflix tells writers to write very obvious things in the script for people who are not paying attention to the screen. So the lesson that I want you to take away from this is that I'm fucking old. Thank you very much. I'm older than 88% of the world's population. I'm older than 75% of the American population. But the crucial thing to know here is that 70% of the world's population, the vast majority of consumers you give a shit about from this point forward are millennials and younger. And their media habits are not going to change. Their media habits are changing the rest of the world's media habits. And from this point forward, if you're in marketing or in publishing or in content, if you're only addressing vertical or horizontal, television or mobile, if you're buying mobile and television video in silos, you're out of your mind. It's a great way if you remember the John Wanamaker quote, I know half my marketing money is being wasted, I just don't know which half. Right now, the best way to waste half of your marketing money is to not buy the whole consumer. Thank you very much. You can download the report at this, and they're being handed out. Let's go get a drink.
Finally, happy birthday to Evan. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Evan. Happy birthday to you. Woo! Thank you, everyone.